It's time for the NordCast here on WOBL, and here's your host, Nord Center CEO Don Schiffbauer.
We have 5 service lines. We service the adult population, child and adolescent population. We have sexual assault services, which you'll hear about in a little bit. We are the largest provider of residential services as well as crisis services. So we're excited to be here with you today talking about sexual assault services for Lorain County, and we also have a footprint in Huron County. But before we get into that, you've heard us talk about the Mind Over Miles 5K run and 1 mile walk, and that happened yesterday out at Burr Oak Reservation. And to say it was a success is an understatement. We appreciate all of our sponsors, all of our volunteers, and our board members, and especially the runners and walkers who came out in support of behavioral health and brain health. That the money raised will help to increase access to services as well as eradicate the stigma associated with it. And the other thing I'd like to mention is a special shout out to our friend and board member, Brett Buick. Brett Buick successfully completed his 3rd Goggins Challenge, and the Reader's Digest version on that, it's a physical challenge, 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours in support of suicide awareness and veterans' mental health. So we appreciate Brett, his and his family's dedication and helping to contribute to a very successful inaugural event. So with that, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what our podcast will be today. So in today's NordCast, we'll continue not only to explore the programs that we have, but who they help and the positive impact they have on our community. We'll also highlight our relationship with other agencies in our community and how those important collaborations are centered around you. Now, in today's episode, we'll explore a topic that is often surrounded by silence, and that is sexual assault. We will cover issues including what are the services available for sexual assault survivors in and around Lorain County, why the portrayal of sexual assault exams is often negative and inaccurate, and what people should know about this important service. We'll also learn about the very important resources available for child and adolescents, as well as the warning signs for you, the parents and caregivers, to pay attention to. Though it's hard to think about and it's even harder to talk about. According to the Centers for Disease Control, over half of the women and almost 1 in 3 men have experienced sexual assault or sexual violence involving physical contact during their lifetimes. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 26 men have experienced completed or attempted rape. And additionally, 1 in 3 women and about 1 in 9 men experienced sexual harassment in a public place. Today, we will learn from our guests, Bethany Lewis and Mari Colon, the challenges facing survivors in coping with not only the immediate, but also the long-term aftermath of sexual assault. We will learn about the resources available at the Nord Center for individuals and families in our community experiencing this issue and how those in the community needing this care can access it. So we're going to go to commercial, but stick around and we'll be right back.
Put your phone on D&D, that means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always sing with me. So put your phone on D&D, that means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always remember this beat.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Walking into the building for the first time after the shooting, it was crippling, but it had to be preserved.
In response to the Pulse nightclub shooting that affected the LGBTQ community, Barbara Poma, owner of Pulse, founded the One Pulse Foundation to honor Pulse victims and survivors.
If you're an ally of this community, speak out. There are more of us together than apart. It is the power of love. in its rawest form.
Join the fight for LGBTQ acceptance. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Together.
Juntos.
Together.
We stand up to cancer.
On Saturday, August 19th, join Stand Up to Cancer for all the inspiration.
Together, we can stand up for our family and friends and everyone who is battling this disease.
Celebrating all the progress and innovation.
So just stand up with us.
One night to save lives. Join the millions in the fight against cancer. Tune in Saturday, August 19th at 8/7 Central on ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. For more ways to watch, visit standuptocancer.org.
Get on board. The water is open. It's time to go boating and fishing and leave stress in our wake. Feel the wind as we ride and a fish on the line. Reel in our first catch and feel the sun at our backs. It's get out on the water season. It's time to get on board. Find out where to get on board near you. Visit Take Me Fishing and Discover Boating to learn more. And please recreate responsibly. Get on board. Get on board.
All right, we are back, and we're back with our guests, Bethany Lewis and Mari Colon, and we are here to do a deeper dive into the issue of sexual assault. So I'd like to turn to our first guest, Bethany Lewis. Bethany Lewis is our Director of Sexual Assault Services at the Nord Center. And Bethany, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Don. Hi, everyone. My name is Bethany Lewis. I'm the Director of Sexual Assault Services at the Nord Center. I am a licensed social worker in the state of Ohio, and I've been doing work in the sexual violence field for over 10 years now.
Well, thank you for that. And I would have to say that Bethany does a very good job of working with her team, not only within the Nord Center, but also working with the multidisciplinary team out in the community, law enforcement, prosecutor's office, and community-based agencies. So the first question for you, Bethany, is when we talk about sexual assault, it can be difficult. It can often evoke some trauma, and therefore people can be very reluctant or often very reluctant to even talk about it. So for someone who has experienced sexual assault, why is this an important, and although we think we should know the answer, why is this an important topic that we should feel empowered to talk about?
Sure. You know, Don, sexual assault and sexual abuse, they really thrive in secrecy, in the quiet, in the dark, right? That's what we think of when we think of those things. And it's because when you're not talking about it, when it's not out in the open, it's easier to get away with these kind of atrocities and these crimes, right? And so that silence can really lead to feelings of shame for people who've experienced this. And those survivors might be afraid to talk about it, might be afraid to come forward, might not think they deserve or want or can get help for what happened to them.
So I heard you say shame. I heard you talk about fear or embarrassment. So in your experience, you know, when I think of those words, I think of stigma. And the stigma actually has a direct impact on survivors and probably their willingness to come forward to seek help, let alone be involved in the legal system, right?
Absolutely. You know, that stigma can lead to victim blaming from people in the community, people in their own families, even with yourself. You know, maybe you think that you did something to deserve whatever happened to you, but that's never true. It's never the person's fault who you know, experience this sexual violence. And so the stigma can really hold people back from reaching out. They might not want to talk to law enforcement because they feel they might not be believed. And so being able to talk about it can help, you know, open the doorway for either working with law enforcement or talking with a therapist or any other form of help and relief for that person.
And sometimes that doorway, sometimes it doesn't get open for a while, too. So if someone listening has experienced, or in your experience, when someone has experienced sexual assault a long time ago, or maybe they've never told anyone and opened that door, what do you want them to know?
We believe you. You matter, and we are here to support you. Anytime you're ready to talk, you can even call our hotline anonymously to speak to someone. If you've never said those words out loud before, that, you know, something happened to you, it's okay. You can start with just one phone call and have one conversation.
And even just hearing you say, we believe you, that is very, very important for our listeners and anybody out there to know. Well, I appreciate you shedding some light on this topic as we start to dive more into it, Bethany. But when we come back, we're going to hear from our next guest to offer an additional perspective on sexual assault services in our community. So stick around.
If you have Ohio Medicaid, you need to act now. All Medicaid members are required to renew their health coverage. If you are no longer eligible, trained navigators can help for free. Call Get Covered Ohio at 833-628-4467 or visit getcoveredohio.org. This project is supported by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services as part of a financial assistance award totaling $2.33 million with 100% funding by CMS/HHS and do not necessarily represent the official views of the U.S. government. Sponsored by the Ohio Association of Food Banks, aired by OAB and the station.
Ohio loves to gamble, but this is one bet you will never win. Ohio doesn't require gates and flashing lights at every crossing, so drivers are at risk. Statistics show that gates and lights together prevent more train car accidents than stop signs or crossbucks alone. Please approach all crossings with caution and report bad railroad crossings at angelsontrack.org. That's angelsontrack.org. Because bad crossings kill good drivers. Sponsored by Angels on Track, aired by OAB and this station.
I lost my brother.
I lost my sister.
I lost my best friend.
Each year, Ohio loses some of its best and brightest to train car accidents.
Everyone knows that crossing is bad.
Stop signs and crossbucks just aren't enough. How can you help? Report bad crossings at angelsontrack.org. That's angelsontrack.org. Because bad crossings kill good drivers. Sponsored by Angels on Track, aired by OAB and this station.
Now, we tend not to think about now. We dream about tomorrow, relive yesterday. But right now in front of us is victory over cancer. Right now, cancer research funded by the V Foundation is leading to better treatments and saving lives. Victory over cancer is there for the taking by you, because today's cancer research is tomorrow's victory. Learn more at v.org.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
All right, we are back for our next segment of our show and with our next guest, Mari Colon. Hola, Mari.
Hola, Dan.
Why don't you take a little bit and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, what you do at the Nord Center, how long you've been doing it, and why?
So, good afternoon to all the listeners. So, my name is Mari Colon, and it's an honor, by the way, to be in today's podcast. My journey started 21 years ago, actually in 2002, when I was doing my practicum back in the days and when it was Lorain County Rape Crisis only. And for me, this has been one of my greatest honor and privilege to work with survivors of sexual violence. Survivors, to me, they had taught me the biggest lessons in life. There is life after something so horrible like that.
Thanks, Mari. I appreciate you sharing that with us. First question is, can you help our listeners understand the difference between reaching out for help with a sexual assault and then reporting sexual assault to law enforcement?
Yeah, reaching out is all about healing. That is the most important thing, is healing for the survivor. Reaching out to get help, having someone who listens to that person genuinely and sympathetic and empathetic as well. So reaching out, it's about the survivor. So if you are listening and if you're a survivor, it is so important for you to reach out for you. This is about you and only you. Now, making the report is part of the healing stages. It's part of the healing, and it is important to do it so you can be able to confront that person, to have someone accountable, regardless of the outcome.
So you talked about it being a healing process. You talked about the reporting of it, but there's also another part about the process. And can you help our listeners appreciate why a sexual assault exam after an assault, what it might actually be for a survivor as a step to begin the healing process?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, reporting to law enforcement is part of healing, and with that, it will be a sexual assault exam. The sexual assault exam is part of the investigation, and it's to collect evidence, DNA, etc. But it's very important to know that this collection of evidence, the one who has control of what to be done, etc., is the survivor. The survivor is always in control. It is with their consent, so they can stop any part of the procedure at any time because they're in control. We want to give survivors that they have control over their life and over the exam. So I think that that's important. So one, yes, the law enforcement is important as part of the healing because it's putting someone accountable. And with that, the exam is important. But it's important to know that for individuals 16 and up, if a person was sexually assaulted within the 96 hours, that's when they can have a collection of evidence kit done. And also minors, have up to 72 hours for that. But not only that, we also provide check exam for kids, much younger, to see if they have some healing injuries and things like that. So it's important to reach out. Now, that doesn't mean for an adult who gets a collection of evidence kit has to report. This is in their time. But it's important to gather that collection of evidence on time. So if the person changed their mind a year after that kid, can go forward with charges, whatever that person wants. So it's important to gather that evidence. That's the key. That's the most important thing if that person changed their mind later. Because important decisions like that takes time. So you cannot make important decisions in the moment, especially when trauma, stress, it has happened to you. So, we give that time to that person. Remember, survivor, if you're a survivor, you're in control of your healing.
So I think when I hear you say that the survivor is in control, and then I think back to what Bethany said earlier in the program about we believe you, it is really about supporting and delivering care for the survivor that is there when they need it, when they feel empowered to reach out for it, and when they're ready to start healing. So when people hear 96 hours, you can reach out to someone or our agency when you feel as though it's right for you. That's really important. Now, we know that we at the Nord Center, we provide services not only for adults that have experienced sexual assault, but also for children and adolescents. So, Mari, can you tell our listeners what resources are available for our child and adolescents and how that program differs from services for adults?
One of the things is that we had an advantage to work with a multidisciplinary team, which is many disciplines in the community. That includes CPS, that includes law enforcement, that includes the medical, the prosecutor's office, and advocacy, and the mental health. So all those disciplines get together for the benefit of a child, of the family. So we work together. So instead of a child or family go to different areas, they just come to us, one place, and that's it. So if they need a medical exam or a check exam. So we do everything in our facility. That includes the forensic interviews as well. So we all work together as a team. So the family doesn't have to go to different, places like before. So those are one of the advantages that we have at the center, in which families can come, making sure that overwhelming feeling of so many things is happening, a child disclosing being sexual abuse, then law enforcement, then children's services, and all those things can be so overwhelming. So with us working with them, we're like that bridge who goes to these other disciplines. So I think that this is a unique program, as well as the STEP program. The STEP program is to help families in dealing with those early symptoms of PTSD, and it helps them to reduce those symptoms before they can go to therapy.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about the families and friends, parents and caregivers, and the impact to them on our next segment. But I'm going to go a little bit off script here. School's getting ready to go back in session, or for some members of our community, it has. Can you talk about how the Nord Center's Sexual Assault Services Department, looks to the schools as almost our eyes, if you will, to ensure that we are recognizing what may be early signs of some type of sexual assault or abuse going on?
One of the things that we do, we reach out to the schools to create different curriculums and awareness to the teachers and parents and things like that. When it comes to the Safe Touch, it is important to educate the community about how to talk to kids Instead of saying a good touch or a bad touch, we need to eliminate that and start saying safe touches, because sometimes a good touch can be a really bad touch because it's based on how that child feels and having in mind the anatomy, the nursing of our body, etc. So it's so important to go with the safe touch, the out touch, and the o touch. And the o touch is the one who has to do with sexual violence, in which it creates confusion in children because they don't know what to feel and they don't know what's going on in their body with that. So we do a lot of presentations and awareness in the community, in the schools, etc., and teaching parents to become empowered, how they can be able to know if something's going on with a child, any behaviors, any changes that the kid is having that is not normal to that child, that can be a red flag. Everything from regressive behavior to start acting out certain ways, those are red flags. There's so many red flags out there when it comes to that. But the most important is like looking at the people around the child. We sometimes tell the kids, don't let no one touch you, instead of telling to the kid, no one is allowed to touch you. We need to start to put in the responsibility on the person who probably is going to do something, instead of putting that responsibility on the child by, don't touch me. It's like the other person is not allowed to touch you.
Thanks, Madi, and we appreciate everything that our local schools are doing to assist us in creating and raising this awareness. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk to Bethany Lewis and Madi Colon as we talk more about the services for sexual assault for child and adolescents and adults. So stick around and we'll be right back.
Every day, people drive across bad railroad crossings without ever knowing the dangers that lurk down the track. Site obstructions, overgrown vegetation, natural terrain that blocks the view of impending doom. It's not a matter of if, but when a train will strike another victim. You can help. Report bad railroad crossings at angelsontrack.org. That's angelsontrack.org. Because bad crossings kill good drivers. Sponsored by Angels on Track, aired by OAB and this station.
Need money for after-school and educational programs for your child? Qualifying families can receive $1,000 per child through Ohio's after-school child enrichment accounts. Funds received by a parent or guardian can be used on a number of educational activities, including tutoring, day camps and field trips, language and music lessons, and much more. You can find the full list of how funds can be spent and begin the process of receiving your educational account. Find out if your family qualifies by visiting aceohio.org today.
Sponsored by the Ohio Department of Education, aired by OAB and this station.
When will the danger become crystal clear? When you read another statistic? When it happens to your neighbor? When your family is shattered? When will you finally take action? Don't let another family's life fall to pieces due to the dangers of unsafe railroad crossings. Report bad railroad crossings at angelsontrack.org. That's angelsontrack.org. Because bad crossings kill good drivers. Sponsored by Angels on Track, aired by OAB and the station.
Put your phone on D&D. That means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always sing with me. So put your phone on D&D. That means do not disturb when you're driving. And when you're going from point A to B, I need you to stay safe, please, so always remember this beat.
Don't drive distracted. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
All right, so we're back for our third segment of our show. And did you know that the Nord Center employs over 275 people to carry out our mission of engaging people in our community through treatment, prevention, and advocacy? We've got a terrific team, as evidenced by our two colleagues here today, as well as a wide variety of other services and job roles that we employ. So if you are looking for a career in behavioral health and are interested, you can go to our website at www.nordcenter.org/careers. You can even apply online, and some of our programs are 24/7, offering increased flexibility for your work, school, or life schedule. So again, we are very fortunate to have not only one, but two of our members of our sexual assault services team here. Our director, Bethany Lewis, and Mari Colon with us to help shed some light on sexual assault and abuse, the issue, and the help that is available for survivors. So we're going to get right back into the conversation. So Mari, parents and caregivers are always mindful of their children's well-being. And I know that, most of us are parents here, but may not know what the signs might be if their child's experiencing or have experienced sexual assault. What should parents and caregivers be looking for?
Thank you, Dan, for asking this important question. One of the things is we as parents, grandparents, needs to be cautious about the adults in our kids' life and who are spending too much time with our children and exhibiting the following behaviors. Does not respect boundaries or listen when someone tells them no. It's like, for example, tickle. If, an adult is tickling a kid and the kid is saying no, 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 and then the parent says stop, he doesn't want to, and that person continues tickling the kid, that's a red flag. They need to listen when a kid says no. It's now the person needs to stop. Another one is engaging in touching that a child or child's parents, guardian have indicated as unwanted, like continue or talking about things that the parents say, don't talk to my kid about X, Y, and Z, and then continue talking. Or, touching a kid, come here, give me a hug, etc. It's very important for us to tell children that if somebody asks you, give you a hug, they have the right to say no. And then the adult who gets upset, they shouldn't get upset. It is important to praise the child when the child has that autonomy within their body. I don't want to kiss grandma today. I don't want to kiss grandpa. That's okay. Your kid doesn't want to, and we need to respect that. The same way at the grocery store, when sometimes, we have kids and go like, oh my God, he's so cute. And then the kids go ahead, the adult go and touch it. And then it's like the kid goes like, it's not, doesn't want to. And the parent goes like, don't do that. It's okay. No, we need to be okay when our kids, doesn't want any type of physical contact. That's okay. Another behaviors that we need to look at is when adult tries to be a child's friend. Come on, try to go in their own level, bringing gift to the kid, this is the music that I like too, etc. Things like that. Those are red flags, that person who wants to be in your child's life constantly and then wants to babysit. Oh, I take care of your child, no problem, things like that. Those are red flags, including not only adults, but also older teens, that they want to be with your kids all the time. And those don't seem to have an age-appropriate behaviors or relationships. Like, wait a minute, this is not appropriate. This type of relationship is not good. Talk with children about their personal problems. Come on. Adults, we never use children to vent. Okay, come on, help me with my problems. That's inappropriate. Mm-hmm. So those are the things that we need to pay attention to. Spend time alone with children outside of their role. For example, a teacher, a coach, and a police officer, etc. They outside of their role, they wanted to spend more time with their kids. Express unusual interest in child's sexual development, like, oh my God, your child is getting older. Look at that. Oh my God, pretty soon she's going to be a young woman. Mm-hmm. Things like that, those are, red flags. So we need to start paying attention to those adults around us. And then with the kids, parents are able to find out if something's happening to their kids, and it's like physical signs, behavior signs, or emotional signs. Some physical signs is, of course, like a lot of UTIs. Those are the things that I have learned from our SANE nurses.
So UTIs.
UTIs.
Urinary tract infection.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I cannot pronounce that for the life of me, so thank you that you did it for me. So a lot of UTI, those are the things that we hear a lot, from our nurses. And then redness in the genital areas, things that doesn't, looks, quite normal to them. So that's why it's so important to contact us rather than let me explore and check what is going on. Anything that they feel that is not normal, reach out to us. Then we can be able to go about. Excessive talking about knowledge of sexual topics. Little kids should not know anything that had to do with sexualized behaviors or sex or anything like that. And emotional, anything that changes from something that was normal to something that is like way abnormal.
Wow, Marty, I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing all that information. And I know that we've only got about 60 seconds left, but I also want to highlight that our services, we also have bilingual services in our sexual assault services department. And I know we've got members of the Latinx community that may be listening. So can you take 20 seconds and talk to them about the importance and how they can get in contact with our services?
One other thing is that I'm going to say, basta ya, está bien hablar sobre algo tan doloroso como esto. No estás solo, llámanos, búscanos completamente gratis y estamos aquí para ti y solamente para ti, para tu familia, de la mejor manera que podamos estar. So, llámanos, basta ya, está muy bien en hablar.
Muchas gracias, Mari. And thank you very much to you, Bethany. Our half hour has flown by, and I'd like to take this opportunity to once again thank our guests. It has been truly informational. And at the Nord Center, our mission is to engage people in our community to achieve mental and emotional health and recovery and healing through treatment, prevention, and advocacy. And we accomplish this by sharing the importance of mental health and services available not only at our organization, but as we participate in the healing process with other organizations for the benefit and coping of survivors of sexual assault. So until next time, thank you for listening, and please be well.
The proceeding was a paid informational program. The views and opinions expressed were not necessarily those of the staff, management, or advertisers of WOBL Radio.
Home